Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile arts dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guest, Georgina Bellamy. Hi Georgina.
Hi Sue.
It's lovely to see you. We were just having a chat there about Instagram. I say this every time now, don't I? Because I keep stalking everybody on Instagram. So if you want to be a guest, get yourself on Instagram. Right. Anyway, so I have a quick little bio here from Georgina. Georgina Bellamy is a British embroidery artist from London, specialising in 3D embroidery and sculptural techniques. Graduating from London College of Fashion with a degree in embroidery for fashion, Georgina has worked for several fashion designers. After winning the Embroiderers Guild scholarship, she now focuses on building her own embroidery brand, That Embroidery Girl. Much of her work comprises fully 3D Goldwork and beaded animals, and Georgina also runs workshops and raised embroidery and exhibits across Europe with her animals. So there we are. That's a very small nutshell, Georgina, which
Yes.
I don't think really does justice to your beautiful work. So if anybody hasn't seen Georgina's work, go and look, because the phrase fully 3D goldwork and beaded animals doesn't really sum up how gorgeous they are.
Oh, thank you.
And before I forget, you can find Georgina on thatembroiderygirl.com, and she's also uses that name, That Embroidery Girl, on Instagram and probably anywhere else. But
Yes, I do. I decided to just put it under one whole umbrella, if you know what I mean, so that, because everyone was getting confused, it was Georgina Bellamy, then it was That Embroidery Girl, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put it all under That Embroidery Girl and go with it.
And that's definitely there about building a brand, because it is, and I think that's a nice way to go. So before we get started with your Stitchery story today, Georgina, would you like to share with us what you're working on and what has got you excited?
Oh, quite a few things actually. This year's been really, it's kind of been sort of one of the years where I've actually seen quite a bit of growth. So this year I'm going to exhibit in Italy, so I need to do some extra work for that. I go in May. I'm teaching in Paris, I'm teaching in Strasbourg, I'm teaching in Lyon, I'm also teaching in Italy. And then hopefully I've put my proposal in for the Knit and Stitch show. So I'm hoping to actually teach with the Knit and Stitch show in London, Harrogate and Dublin. So fingers crossed for that one.
Ooh, and is that for this year?
That's for this year, yes.
Oh, fantastic. Right, well, if you come into Harrogate, I'll come and say hello. I won't get down to London, but Harrogate's about 70 miles away from me, so that's my local place. So, right, well, I'll definitely come and say hello then. Right,
hopefully, yeah.
Yes, that'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, let's cross our fingers for that one. And all those international opportunities, how amazing is that? That's brilliant.
Yeah, I was really lucky actually. In fact, Europeans seem to have been a little bit more receptive to me in a way than my home. They was very much sort of like, they saw the gold work, they're quite intrigued by it, I think. So
yes.
It's led to quite a few opportunities. Unfortunately, I don't speak any of the languages though, so much of my stuff when I go away for the few weeks is mimed, which makes it slightly difficult.
Well, do you know, I was just going to say, wow, how actually, when you think about it, how do you do a workshop in Italy or Germany or wherever? Do you speak all of those languages? Lots of miming.
Lots of mime.
I should imagine that's quite comical then, really.
Oh, honestly, it's absolutely hilarious. We all fall about laughing, so that everyone's had a good time by the end of it. Or they want to kill me, one of the two.
Oh, that is just so funny. Well, and anyway, well done. And as I've often said, who'd have thought that getting interested in embroidery and gold work and things can lead into the creation of in air quotes, a proper job. And you can be travelling around all over the world demonstrating and getting your stuff shown. So it just goes to show, doesn't it, how things have moved on. It really has.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, so you're excited about that. And so are you building up a set of like workshop samples, or how are you doing that?
Well, at the moment, I'm doing my workshops in Italy. So I usually have a small animal that I'll give them, that I'll say, this is what we'll be doing today. It's a one-day workshop. I haven't got any of this in England at the moment, which is planned probably for next year. Obviously, this year, if I was teaching at the Knit and Stitch show, we've got, I think the options are like a parrot head, a unicorn, or a bumblebee. So they're the three options if I get picked that we'll be doing one of those. But definitely for next year, I'd be looking into doing regular workshops and maybe even a class down here. But at the moment, I'm working freelance as well as doing that embroidery girl. So it's kind of juggling it all. So.
We'll get onto the juggling later on then.
Yes.
So, and I have to say, I think your little unicorns are just beautiful, aren't they? They seem to be really, really popular. They're just so charming and colourful, and we all like sparkly things, don't we? So they're just gorgeous.
Yeah, lots of the ladies like them, but I really want to. I think it's like growth. So slowly but surely, I'm kind of growing. So I've been doing the unicorns, but now I'd really like to do sort of like seasonal. So summer, spring, I'd like to do birds, and then maybe British wildlife in the winter, and start doing sort of themes and seasonal stuff rather than just doing. Someone wants a unicorn, quick, let's go and do a unicorn. Someone wants a frog, let's do a frog,
Yeah, I think if you organise in themes like that, it does help though, doesn't it? It helps to build consistency and also to inject some different things in there as well, because it can be quite exhausting trying to suddenly think, I need to do this, I need to do that. It's like when you're doing posting on social media. If you actually do just sit down and think, right, what am I going to do these next 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or whatever, it's a lot easier than going, oh hell, right, I'm supposed to be posting something on Facebook in 5 minutes. What am I going to post? It's just exhausting thinking about it like that.
It's absolutely one of the most stressful things. That's how a lot of my social media has been run for ages. Oh no, I haven't got something to post today, and then it's like, all hands to the deck. You're like, no, what can I photograph? Yeah. So it can be incredibly stressful. That's definitely the word. Yeah.
And the other thing I just wanted to say was, it must have been a couple of weeks ago now, you did, I think, your first live on Instagram. So that was really good. I could tell you were very nervous. It is nerve-wracking, but that came across really well when you were demonstrating some of your techniques. Which is really good. I've done a few lives on Facebook, but I think you've got an advantage because actually you don't have to have your head in there, right? You're focused on your hands and what you're doing. Whereas if I'm wittering on about podcasting or something, it's like, everyone's looking at me now.
Yeah, you know what the thing is? I think I tend to get nervous, whatever. I mean, I had an AGM meeting once when I was a scholar, and I had to stand up in front of 200 people, and I just lost, like, my voice if it could sink into my belly, that's kind of where it went. And I was standing there, it felt like 10 minutes, just open mouthed. So, at least that didn't happen on Instagram.
Yeah,
and that's purple diarrhea.
But it's a good way to build engagement and, as you say, grow your following. And that's the thing that all the social media platforms are looking for now, is engagement and interest. So, like it or lump it, that's what we have to do, I think, these days to get ourselves out there. You do have to be brave, don't you? So anyway, before I ramble on too much about that, let's get back onto embroidery. Yeah. So those are very exciting projects that you've got going. So how did you first get interested in embroidery, Georgina? And who taught you and what did you do?
So it's a really long story, actually. I had my son at 20, and I was working in a dry cleaners, and I used to undo all of the clothing. So we'd have, before the tailor got to it, I'd undo all of it. So for the hemming and stuff like that. And one day they were all talking about designers, and, they were saying that the owner's daughter was going to be a designer. And I'd seen some of her stuff that she was sewing, and I actually looked at it and I thought, I could do that. And, I took some leather home later on that night, and over the weekend I made my son a jacket, and I embroidered this jacket, and he was going out, he just learned how to walk, so he was so cute anyway, and he was going out and people were saying, where did he get that? And that was from that. People were like, you know what, you should think about it. So I decided to do City and Guilds. And it was really, I was only 22 by this point. So a lot of people were like, no, go to a college with your peers, younger people. Yeah. But I actually found going to an adult education and learning City and Guilds, where the average age was around, I'd say around about 60. Mm-hmm. These women knew so much, so much more than I would ever have learned if I'd have been around people my own age. And that's really where I learned. I've stayed there for 3 years doing all different City and Guilds, and I was just around so many ladies that done knitting and crochet and quilting, and they just done it for fun, and they'd done it since they were kids.
Brilliant.
And anything that you wanted to know, they knew how to do it.
That is such an interesting point about going your own path and saying, do you know what, I'm going to do it this way, and look at the rich pool of talent that you had access to, as you say, that you wouldn't have had access to doing it different ways.
Never.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, never. I think that when you look at people's actual skills, you might not necessarily be able to see it straight away, because you might be with someone from a different generation, so they use it in a very traditional way. But if you can see the skill that they're using, whether it be, you know, bobbin lace or anything really, tatting, they know how to do it. And you'd never learn that. Once I went to university, because I was lucky enough, a lady called Anthea Godfrey actually saw my work. She saw my work at the college, and she said, "Oh, get her into university." And I applied to go to a university, and I got in. And when I got there, I was shocked. Like, no one had hardly any hand skills whatsoever. They were gluing on beads, gluing on material, things that we'd be like, "Oh my God," you know. So those ladies, and particularly my tutor Carol Hart, they gave me such a founding in everything that I needed to know. It was just, like, I was able to do the entire collection by the end of 3 years. It was all hand. Every year it was all done in hand.
Brilliant.
I was so fast because the ladies had taught me so much. So
well, yeah. So that's a really different story than people saying, "Oh, well, I learned it from my mum" or whatever. So it's interesting how it developed, how you then realised, well, actually, do you know what? I can do this, and I'm going to give it a go. Top credit there. Now, you also mentioned that you got the Embroiderers Guild Scholar award as well. So that was very much a leapfrog. I can't think of the word.
It was an accolade. It was definitely a great accolade to have.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
brilliant.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's always nice to have that sort of thing as a background for you as well.
Oh yeah, it was brilliant because I got to exhibit in with all the knit and stitch shows, which actually led to going to Strasbourg and meeting the French ladies, which led to me meeting the Italian ladies. So it kind of
right. So that's how everything. There's a seed for everything, isn't there?
Yes, definitely.
And so then, what made you decide to go out on your own then?
If I'm really honest, it was just because obviously I had studied fashion embroidery, and when I finished embroidery in my degree, I'd gotten a job at a London studio. And to be honest, it depressed me a lot because I was seeing my work, and I took it as my art. It means a lot to me.
Yes.
And it was going to other designers without my name on it, and I wasn't getting paid what I felt I should be.
Right, yes.
So it was very disheartening. I was feeling like I always need to have a career, like a sort of, okay, I know that if I work hard enough, I'm going to be able to be in a better position than I was. And, you know, I was struggling to pay for things like travel, and I was just really struggling. And to top it all off, no one even knew who I was. It was really quite a depressing time in my life, to be honest. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try my hardest, and I'm going to do my art, and I'm going to see who likes it and who appreciates it. And even if they don't, at least I know it's mine, and I can say, this is my work. This isn't so-and-so designer's work or so-and-so. This is mine. It belongs to me.
So you've developed yourself a very distinctive little niche there with the 3D gold work. And I do hear you often saying, well, this is how I do it. This is my technique how I've developed. So what got you interested? Where did that spark come to think, do you know what, I'm going to do these little animals? Is that something that you've evolved through, or did you start off with that idea? What was the evolution there, Georgina?
Really, because it's actually ties into one of the ideas later on that we was talking about in terms of your biggest disasters. I'd come out of university, and university is such a creative place. And at the time when I won the scholarship and when I was the graduate, I was doing crazy things. I was embroidering with bones and teeth and shells and you name it. And it all, everyone that's very arty will be like, oh, it's fabulous, I love it. But actually, when it comes down to, will people buy it?
You've got to earn a living.
Am I going to be a viable product? It's kind of like, no, no one wants this. So I was always doing little heads at university. I'd always make little heads out of beads and stuff, and people were like, oh, that's cute. But no one was really interested because we were at fashion university, so they didn't really have much bearing on what I'm doing. But I was always making them, and I kind of sat down one day and I'd done a little lizard, and this little lizard looked really quite lifelike, but it was all out of Goldwork. And someone was like, oh, I really like that. That's really good. And that kind of made me think, do you know what, maybe there's something there. Maybe I can just take this forward. And I knew I could sort of do the animals, because I already had plans in my head. As soon as I looked at an animal, I thought, I know how I'm going to manipulate you to look right. So I just kind of went with it, and it's been really successful. And it's kind of carved out that niche where exactly what I wanted to happen has happened, where someone can see my work, and if they know me, they'll say, I know that's Georgina Bellamy's work.
Yes,
you know.
yes,
So,
and that's back to creating a brand for yourself as well, isn't it? So well done on that. And I have to say, things like lizards and snakes and reptiles, when you see them in like zoo places, I love them because of their colourful skin and the texture. And you might not want to touch a snake, might you? But patterns on them are really beautiful, and they do lend themselves very much to the style that you've adapted. But I think it's also good that you've dealt with fluffy things as well, like pandas and various monkeys and things that haven't got a hard shell, they're fluffy, but you've still managed to create a beautiful Goldwork version of a fluffy creatures. Yeah, that's really interesting how that technique's developed. Now, normally I would be asking, what's your favourite technique?
Yeah.
Why do you like it so much? So come on then, Georgina, enlighten us. What's your favourite?
Let me think.
Is it Goldwork, mate?
Oh yeah, it has to be. It just has to be, because I think it's not even necessarily Goldwork in its entirety. It's an obsession with using the metal wires, pearls. Because the more I use them, the more I learn about how I'm going to make a structure. And now I'm so far along, but I've been doing it for roughly around about 5 years, slowly but surely, developing the techniques that I'm using, and moving them away from stump work. When I learned stump work, obviously that gave me a great foundation, but moving that on from that point and saying, okay, well, what can we do with the pearls? Can we actually make them really thin? Can we make them stand up? All those kind of things. So it's a technique that's evolving, but it's definitely my favourite.
Now, the other thing that surprised me is, so I've never really tried Goldwork or anything like that, but I just thought all those spirally wires and all the rest of it, I thought you could only get them in gold colours, and there you are with you. I think, wow, I didn't know all of those, pearls. Mm-hmm. I didn't know you could get all of those in all those colours to actually make animals. So that was a bit of an eye-opener for me, because I've never looked into it. Do you know what I mean? Because I've never gone down that particular route. And you see a lot of traditional, beautiful, kind of ecclesiastical Goldwork and so forth. So it was just like really, I thought, wow, actually, I didn't know you could get even the materials to do all this. Is it hard to get?
I think when you're not really, no. When you're into it, then no. I mean, I sell it on my website. The colours come usually from India, and that's where they use it a lot in their traditional hand embroidery. So I think most of the colours, in my experience, have always come from Pakistan or India.
Right, yes, because they love the colours. When I was speaking with Saima last week, a lot of her work's all influenced by Indian folk embroidery. Well, I mean, she grew up in India, but that's a good point. Bright colours and India go together, don't they?
Yeah.
Right.
And they use the pearls a hell of a lot in their embroidery work. So
that's interesting.
It's beautiful. I mean, some of the work from India is beautiful. Goldwork's very hard to make look terrible. It's very difficult. It's just beautiful in and of itself, just looking at them. So
and you keep pushing the technique. Now, do I remember seeing this week you're making a camel, and that's going to be an actual 3D camel? It's not going to be sewn down anywhere, is it?
No, I've got another 3D camel actually on the feed, which was the first one I'd done. So this is the second one.
Right.
Yeah, that I'm doing now. Obviously, the 3D animals take a lot longer than the semi-3D ones. So I tend to... It's always that I suppose, tug of war between selling to make money and wanting to do your art. And you know that making something fully 3D might take you a month. Whereas doing something that's semi-3D, you might be able to knock out in a few days and sell it to the customer. So
yes. But there again, I think you do need to balance that, don't you? Because you need to develop your art as well as things that you can sell. Yes. That's the impression you're saying your art is very important to you. Yes. Otherwise, you'd have carried on with the embroidery houses, wouldn't you? Yeah, definitely. Or, I mean, even now, I could probably make a decent living off of just making unicorns. Yes. Yeah. I need to stop because it doesn't make me happy. There's no point unless I'm happy. And
it's great doing the unicorns, but the unicorns, if that makes sense, the unicorns are a design that I've conquered now, and I feel like I need to conquer something else.
Yes, no, it does make total sense. But I do think it's been a brilliant idea that you've had of putting them on those really nice bags. That kind of it extends the item and the artwork, doesn't it, into something functional that people can think, oh yeah, actually I fancy the bag with the unicorn on. Well, I've got this unicorn now, what am I going to do with it? So
absolutely, that's kind of one of the things about making it into a viable business is, at first you're appealing to people that understand what you're doing, but vast majority of people outside of our niche have no clue about embroidery. They just see something and they think, that's pretty, I want it. And that's kind of the people that I need to appeal to, because our pond is way too small for me to be able to subsist. I need to make money outside of it. So
yes, no, that's a really good point. And I think anybody listening who's also thinking about developing their passion and art into some kind of business, these are the things that you have to tap into these days. It's a whole learning curve in itself, developing the business side of, as well as your artistic, creations and your embroidery and your textile art. So and I think people are sometimes quite surprised at that as well, at how much it does take to craft that business out of it.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It is very difficult.
It is. Right. Moving on to high points. So far you said you've been doing this a number of years now. So what has been the high point of your embroidery journey and career so far, Georgina, that you'd like to share with us?
To be honest with you, I mean, all of the things that have happened, going abroad and stuff like that's great. And I'm actually in Stitch magazine this month. I forgot to drop that. So next month, so it comes out at the end of this month. I have an interview there. But
oh, lovely! Yes, well, I get Stitch magazines. I'm going to say I haven't seen you in there yet.
Oh, next month.
Next month's one. So, well, I'll be looking forward to that. Popping through the envelope, through the letterbox. Then, fantastic.
I have to say, I think it really was that realization. When I come to that realization of understanding, actually, this isn't going to sell, and I need to find a way in which I can change my work, but still stay true to me, where I'm developing a traditional craft. I'm still pushing my traditional craft, keeping it alive, but I'm still selling to a mass audience that wants to buy it. That was really the high point, because without any of that, none of it would have been able to happen.
Right, and that is a really good point to bring up there, back to that, as you say, that realisation of, well, yes, all my arty friends think this is all very interesting, however, ... how am I going to go and buy some beans? Yeah.
Yeah, it always comes back to that. It's unfortunate. It's a horrible thing being an artist like that, because it's always got to come back to, actually, can I afford to eat this week? And, so you have to kind of give up the crazy a little bit. You can still do crazy sometimes, but it can't be all the time.
Yes. Right. So when you're developing your brand and your business in that case, then, and you've got that high point of having that commercial realization of the direction that you needed to go into, then things like, as you say, the accolade of being the Embroiderers Guild Scholar, and I suppose now you can say, well, I teach internationally. That's another excellent accolade. So all those different high points as well, all then start to snowball, don't they, Georgina? Do you see that snowball effect happen?
That's exactly right. It couldn't have happened without that initial realization. There's thousands upon thousands of textile students that are graduating every single year, and the reality of it is that most of us don't find a job. And if we're lucky enough to, we're usually stuck in studios where it's not a very glamorous industry. It's very hard work.
Yes.
I think it's a combat of that. It's kind of trying to find ways in which you can combat that, become your own brand, become your own artist in your own right, and develop your work to a point where it's sellable to a greater audience. Or, everything that I'm doing it's promoting our craft. It's promoting Goldwork. It's keeping it alive. It's keeping hand stitchery alive within fashion. And it's also allowing people to have access to it that normally wouldn't have. Most couture houses aren't accessible to normal people, if you know what I mean, and my work is, and it's kind of, I don't know, I kind of like that idea. I kind of like the idea that I'm keeping this alive.
Yes, in an engaging way. Now, that was something that came across to me when I was listening to your your Instagram live. And I say it's listening because I think I was cooking tea at the time. So, and I get terribly distracted and then the chips have been in too long or whatever. But never mind, my son's 13 and a half. He's got to that point where he'll kind of pretty much eat anything these days because he's hungry. So it doesn't matter, does it? But the point was the different comments that were coming through on the stream and how many people were all going, oh, what's that? So clearly they didn't know it was Goldwork, or where'd you get those pearls things, or what do they call those wires, or what are you doing with your hands? And that to me was really quite eye-opening, because that meant there was people who'd somehow you'd caught their eye, but they didn't actually know what it was that you were doing.
Yep. I would say, that's about 3/4 of the people.
Yeah. So how have they found you? Have you got any idea? What was it that caught their eye, Georgina?
I think it's just the animals. I think that they like the look of the actual animals. Like it will be a unicorn or a sloth or something, and they can understand that that's embroidery. So because you've got the hashtags underneath that kind of telling you it's hand embroidery, they kind of think, oh, that's really nice. Haven't seen something like that before.
Yeah.
But whether or not they understand the true work that goes behind it, no, only an embroiderer would know.
Yes, and especially in this era of machines and mass production of stuff, it possibly wouldn't cross people's minds. How has that actually been made? It just is. It's just appeared out of fresh air, hasn't it? In the minds of a lot of people. So that was a really interesting thing that I noticed on that. Just looking at the comments and because I'm Mrs. Online Marketing, so I look at things like that, and I was really quite intrigued by the fact that it wasn't a load of dyed-in-the-wool embroiderers going, oh yes, I like that particular stitch or whatever. It was the opposite almost. Well done on you. You are growing awareness of the art as well. So, and as you say, making something that people go, oh yes, I want one of those as well. So, brilliant.
Yes, thank you.
So now, moving on then from our high points, do you have any stories that we usually have a bit of a giggle over these ones of when something didn't quite go as planned and was even possibly a bit of a disaster? But importantly, what did you learn from that experience, Georgina?
I've had quite a few disasters, but I don't know if they're funny. I think they're more like, oh no.
Well, I think sometimes it's the irony of it. And I think the other thing is people think, oh, you mean things still go wrong for her? Because everyone thinks different artists never put a foot wrong. So, yeah.
Oh, no, there's always, obviously, the vast majority of what I do is a sculpture. So, especially when I make 3D animals, there's times where I'll make the shape and it doesn't look anything like what I was intending. So I have to look at it and think that was meant to be a dog, but actually it looks like a bear. So we're going to roll with the bear idea.
With the bear thing, yeah.
There, no one's ever going to know. Yeah. That's kind of what happens a lot. It's got a lot better now because we see I'm doing it all the time, so I can pretty much get the shape that I want to get if I really concentrate. But yeah, definitely. I had loads of disasters back in university because we used to do a bit of teamwork, so you'd be relying on someone else. And I remember one particular time I was relying on a pattern cutter. So she was a menswear designer, and come in hand in day, it was the last project of our very final year. So everything was resting on this.
Yeah.
She didn't turn up. And she hadn't done the work. I'd done all the embroidery and she hadn't done the work. And she didn't. No. She was just she hadn't told me the whole time. Every time she'd saw me, she'd kind of been like, no, it's coming along really well. And I was like, this is going to be brilliant. We're out for a first. And then she was just like, the day she didn't turn up and I was freaking out. And then in the afternoon she turned up and she was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, oh my God. Sorry is not really what you want to hear at that point, is it? For your final piece of work, for your final... I didn't even know what to say. I just didn't know what to say. I was crying. It was too much. But actually my degree was okay because they realised that it wasn't my fault.
Not your fault, exactly, yeah.
They marked my embroidery accordingly, but that was definitely a disaster. I remember that very vividly.
Oh dear. Yeah, well, I do remember I used to work at Nissan, the car factory, and we was working on this project, and same kind of thing. There was this other person, this guy was going, yeah, I'm doing this, and yeah, I'm doing this. And according to him, he'd written this whole system. And then the day came, same thing. The day came for the right. We can show the users now and show them how it's going to work, etc. And well, where's this system? And the ultimate quote was, "Sorry, I lied. This doesn't work." And we were all like, "What?" I'll never forget that. Anyway, so it happens in computers as well.
Oh gosh.
Oh dear. So has there been any other kind of things where you thought, well, yeah, you've maybe just learned from something that didn't quite work?
Oh gosh, yes. Actually, a funny story. When I first went to Strasbourg, so 2 years ago, I did my first exhibition in Strasbourg, and I'd never been to Strasbourg before. I don't speak French at all, and I'd brung all of my sculptures, which were heavy, and I actually had bits for the shop, so I had things for the ladies to buy.
Yes.
So it was too heavy to go on the plane, and I was broke anyway. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to get a coach. So I decided to get a coach from London all the way to Strasbourg. And by the time I got to the other end, I was dead on my feet, because every time you try and sleep, the coach is like banging the side of your head.
Yeah.
Coach. But not only that, as soon as we passed over the French border, everyone refused, it would seem, to speak English. So I was asking repeatedly, like, it was 6 o'clock, I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I was saying to the coach driver, is this Strasbourg? And he was saying it in a very French accent that it was. And I was like, no, but I need to make sure that this is actually... I wouldn't get off the bus. I delayed him for about 20 minutes. Like, no, you have to tell me in English, please. And then I walked around. I must have walked around for about like an hour and a half just trying to find this lady's house. And that was probably the most silliest thing I've ever done. It worked out really well in the end. But that moment, it was like, why are you so crazy? Why do you just go to foreign countries and not know where you're going or what you're doing? Like, just insane.
Oh, it's all part of life's adventure, isn't it, Georgina? You wouldn't have missed it for the world, would you?
I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I was just wondering, have you got any UFOs?
Oh gosh, yes, yeah. Especially when a project doesn't work out. So I want to get a particular shape. As I said, I've got a lot better about it, but there will always still be shapes. For example, humans. I've got one zombie on my feed right now, and he's absolutely terrible. I hate him. I almost took him down, but he kind of serves as a reminder, like, I can't do humans yet. I'm not quite there yet. Yeah. So there's always them, trying to get a shape, and then you can't get a shape. So yeah, definitely.
So at what point do you abandon the shape?
I think I can see now whether or not it's going to be viable, because obviously when you're doing fully 3D, you have to think about it from all angles. So I need to be able to look at it straight on and see what it is, but also turn it to the side and see what it is, turn it from upside down. So when I've done that, when I've given a day to the pad work and I've said, you know what, I'm going to find out how you're going to work, and I've yet to conquer the human form. It's just so it's very difficult.
It's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, I think zombies, you can get away with it because a zombie can be kind of mutilated anyway, really. So
yeah, but that's the thing, I didn't even get away with that one.
Georgina Bellamy can't do zombies, right? No. Okay. Brilliant. So you mentioned quickly before about you've got all these different projects on the go now. So how do you manage your projects? Have you heard of the term beware of long distant elephants? So it's those things that seem so far away and you agree to them, and then all of a sudden they're looming large. So how do you manage your time and keep everything going, and obviously keep your creativity going, Georgina?
Oh, with great difficulty. That's I think one of the key things that I try and do, like I'm doing now, is I've just stopped working for everyone else, because obviously I've got the exhibition in May coming up, which is really important to me.
Yes.
Because I'm going to be teaching the ladies, and it's very important that the ladies see representations of where this technique can be taken.
Yes.
So I need to actually have a decent amount of work that hasn't been sold, so that they can see, and they even want to engage with me, because if you go there with all the promises and photographs but people can't see what you're doing, then no one's going to necessarily want to take your class in the first place. So
yes,
I have to, like right now I need to stop doing all those commissions, and I need to say, okay, well, I'm going to focus on the exhibition, on my art, and that's it until May. And then after May, I'm going to focus again on what I want to do for the customers and the brand and stuff like that. So it's kind of just being really brutal and saying what do I actually need to do, instead of looking and saying, what do I want to do, or what has someone asked me to do, or what could I make money from? No, you have to, I have to be very strict and say, I'm working on the exhibition now, that's it.
Yes. That as you say, then that there's always that aspect of it. So then on top of all of that, you're also managing cash flow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you kind of, it's so difficult being a businesswoman compared to being an embroiderer or an artist or whatever. They're so difficult to marry sometimes.
Yes.
And I'm still learning. I mean, I'm 32, so hopefully in like 10 years I'll have it down pat. I'll be like, I know what I'm doing. But right now I kind of just wing it, and if it's a mistake and I haven't made any money or I lose money, then I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that again.
Exactly. And that's, I think, the secret to a lot of this is, the gurus say, learn to fail quickly, because you need to try things to move things forward, but you also need to know at what point think, do you know what, that's not going to work, or I ain't going to do that again. Cut it off with its head, and then off you go on to something else. Very very wise words there, Georgina, and hard won words as well, I would say.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So you've already shared some of your future plans. So you've got all your European work this summer. So that is going to keep you very busy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your proposal in for the Knitting and Stitching show, which, say, fingers crossed, that I can come and see you in Harrogate in November. So have you got anything else that you want to just kind of sneak in at the end to share with us today, Georgina?
No, other than I'm going to be in this month Stitch magazine. I've just been contacted by Inspirations to be part of their editorial, so fingers crossed that happens. I've sent the photographs off, so I should be in Inspirations.
Oh, lovely.
And I'm doing projects for both of them as well, so hopefully I'll be doing some 3D projects in the summertime, so that would be really good for people to be able to engage in and see how I actually do my techniques and stuff.
Yes, I think that would be very interesting to see as well. Even just back to that live that you did with how interested people were in how you've managed to push those traditional techniques into creating something so very engaging. So yeah, that's really great. Right, well, I'm looking forward to my Stitch magazine popping through my letterbox fairly shortly. So that'll be brilliant. Right then, well, there we are. As ever, we could sit and chat all day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we've come to the end of our time today. But Georgina, thank you so much for sharing your very engaging Stitchery story with us today. It's been absolutely fascinating listening and learning and finding more about you and how you got into all of this, and the very purposeful way in which you are moving forward with it as well, which I greatly admire from a business point of view as well as from an artistic point of view. So hopefully this has been also very inspiring for other people who are possibly struggling in those areas and think, well, yeah, that's where she's going. There's always things to learn from each other as well, isn't there?
Thank you. Yeah, there is.
So remember, you can go and find Georgina on Instagram, That Embroidery Girl, and also on her website as well, and everywhere else too. So let's keep an eye on what she's doing. But again, Instagram's fab for seeing all the pictures of all those gorgeous animals and the things that she's up to. So there we are. Thank you so much, Georgina, once again. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Brilliant.
So much.
Bye.
Bye.
If you liked this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and offers from our lovely guests. Please visit stitcherystories.com to join the fan club. Of course, if you have iTunes, then subscribe there to automatically get new episodes, and why not leave us a review and rating whilst you are there. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. So keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.